Alright, y'all. I believe this is the final part of Little Nightmares 2. So, I believe this is the final part. Fucking crash out? What the hell? Oh, right. Okay. I'm supposed to call her. Hold on. Yeah, I fucking figured. There we go. I thought as much, pretty much. Okay, wait. Too damn slow. Oh shit, she can stop on you. There it is. There we go. We figured it out. Oh, okay. course, of course, of course. Oh my. Oh, she's back to normal. 6? We gotta get out. We gotta go. Oh. What the fuck is that? What kind of shit? Oh my god. Why is it getting closer to me? No! Fuck! It's cause my thumb wasn't on the analog stick completely. Go, 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 go. You ain't got the time to be doing all this shit. No! Go! Go! Boy, if you don't climb, you pissing me off. You're pissing me off. Climb, for fuck's sake. Get up! Mono? No! No! Yes. Okay, he's not dead. Don't do it. Dude, what are you talking about, bro? Don't do it. Bro. Oh my god. Bro. We had time. Why'd she drop me, bro? We had time, dude. She could have pulled me up. A throne. Has he grown up? He's gotten older? Is that what's going on? Oh, he has gotten older. Years have passed by. Years are passing him by. Oh my god. Dude. I was fighting against myself this whole fucking time. Bro. I was fighting against myself this whole entire time. Alright. This concludes the finale of Little Nightmares 2. Please do suggest it. I would be down to watch it. Because I really like the game. I really like the horror aspect of this game. But I also really like the lore in this game. And I'm very interested. So I want to know the truth about this game, you know? I want to know what the stories are in this game, you know? Whether it's a theory, whether it's like based on like evidence proven about this game. I just want to get to know that part, right? So we're going to start it right now.
Hey guys, SuperHorrorBro Mike here.
Oh,
and in
also, shout out SuperHorrorBro. You know, full credit to him for making this video. I do appreciate him for making this video because at least it breaks stuff down for some people who don't get it. But yeah, shout out SuperHorrorBro. Thank you for making this video, bro, because now I could, like, you know, understand the story of the game.
this video, we take a step back and look at the big picture as we attempt to set a timeline to the entire Little Nightmares universe. There have been 3 games in total: Little Nightmares and its DLC, Secrets of Amor, the mobile spin-off Very Little Nightmares, and a full-fledged sequel, Little Nightmares 2. All of these games are connected, but how?
Wait, there's a mobile... Wait, there's a mobile spin-off? What the heck? Is it canon?
Oh. Well, sit back, relax, and get ready for a guide through the events of these games in the order that makes most sense, at least to my mind.
Hold on.
In addition to games are connected,
So,
but
okay, he's gonna talk about the DLC.
Well,
okay,
sit back,
fuck it.
relax, and get ready for a guide through the events of these games in the order that makes most sense, at least to my mind. In addition to nailing down a rough timeline, this video will aim to contextualize various elements using theories that seem most logical. With all of that said, let us begin at the very start of this nightmarish tale, with the origin story found within Very Little Nightmares. Released as a mobile offshoot back in 2019, Very Little Nightmares was a touchscreen puzzle game with a very different art style. It used hand-drawn visuals to tell the story of a character which at first glance appeared to be our heroine Six. Using this familiar character, players explored an old mansion built atop a tall cliff face in the middle of the ocean, a place known as the Nest. It is eventually revealed that this character is not Six, her name is simply the girl in the yellow raincoat, a raincoat she eventually loses as she plummets to her death while being chased by a monstrous child known as the Pretender. We can clearly see from her haircut that this girl is not Six, however Six does feature throughout the game, a fellow prisoner who ends up fleeing the nest alongside the girl in the yellow raincoat.
So, this is basically a prequel to the second game. This is a prequel to the first game I just played, because in the beginning of the second game, we see Six, but we don't see her in the yellow raincoat. We see her looking just like that, and if y'all remember the start of that game.
And escaping on a raft after her companion met a watery grave. Before the events of Little Nightmares 2, I had assumed Six acquired her iconic yellow raincoat after leaving the shore of the nest aboard her raft and scooping it out of the water, then being picked up by the mysterious boatman character and taken to the moor, or perhaps simply washing up beside it and finding her way inside. This speculation is now proven incorrect. How do we know Little Nightmares 2 takes place in the weeks and months after the story of Very Little Nightmares? Well, there are several reasons to make this connection. If we look at the digital comics, which acts as a precursor to the events of the sequel, we see Six without raincoat and looking as if she just stepped off the raft at the end of the mobile game. She is captured by the Hunter, a haunting sight that her would-be companion Mono witnesses and seemingly the reason he sets off to free Six at the beginning of Little Nightmares 2. When we finally discover Six, there are several key points of interest found within her prison room. First of all, the music box, an item comforting her during her imprisonment. We see a representation of this music box at the end of the game, Monster Six holding it with extreme importance. In fact, the signal tower uses this box to corrupt and bind her to its spell. Although referenced in the first Little Nightmares game, this scene in Little Nightmares 2 seems to be Six's first introduction to the item and the reason for its hold over her. She connected with it as a coping mechanism during a time of great emotional trauma in her childhood. Also look to the chalk sketches on the walls, presumably the work of Six while being held here. The tally marks are easy enough to explain. They signify a passing of time, maybe days, weeks, or months. Six has, after all, been here for a while. We also see Six has drawn an image of the signal tower. This drawing is almost an exact match for those scenes sketched by the bullies within the schoolhouse. To me, this suggests the signal tower has already...
They're bullies? See, I've been calling them fucking delinquents for a reason. Because they were acting up and they were up to no good. And you mean to tell me this horror game intentionally made bullies?
Already began calling to Six and hypnotizing her with its corrupt transmission, much as we see with the other wretched creatures of this world. In fact, later in the game, as the two adventurers pass by the tower, Six stares up at it as if under a spell. This may well be why she was so easily manipulated, distorted and corrupted while held prisoner within. The tower already held sway over her mental state. But most interesting of all, the sketches are for people we have seen before. People with their faces scratched out, as if to suggest they are now dead. The sketch on the far right represents a person falling. Remember back to the final moments of Very Little Nightmares, the girl in the yellow raincoat who fell to her death at the hands of the Pretender. It seems this sketch represents her. But then what about the others? Well, for now we must move on, but don't worry, we'll be back to revisit these sketches at the end of this video. You may be asking, what about the yellow raincoat? Why did 6 not have this key item if this game follows on directly from the events of Very Little Nightmares? This is actually fairly easy to speculate on. The main point to bear in mind is that while we see 6 about to leave the shore of the nest aboard the driftwood raft, we never see her collect up the floating raincoat.
Yeah.
It is therefore logical to conclude this raincoat took the same tide as 6 and washed up ashore near the Pale City. However, unlike 6, it was not collected up by the hunter, but rather a denizen of the city itself. Eventually, its wearer was either taken by the signal tower, once again leaving the coat behind, or it was simply discarded. After all, these city streets are full of discarded junk at every turn. This is why 6 finds it far from shore, yet looks on it as if it holds some connection to her previously, reminding her of the child who helped her escape not too long ago. One more thing that really connects 6 to the events of Very Little Nightmares preceding this game can be seen by her uncomfortable demeanour while riding the floating door across the river mouth here. It makes sense when we remember she had recently escaped a traumatic experience within the nest using the exact same means, an escape method which led to her capture by the hunter. Skipping to the end of the adventure, 6 is taken by Thin Man and imprisoned once again, this time within the walls of the signal tower itself. Here, its distorted signal twists and corrupts 6 in ways all too familiar to anyone who has encountered monsters such as Roger the Janitor. The signal tower uses thin-mounted twists in the walls of the signal tower itself. Here, its distorted signal twists and corrupts 6 in ways all too familiar to anyone who has encountered monsters such as Roger the Janitor. The signal tower uses Thin Man's power to warp and distort reality, which ravages the world and does exactly the same to poor 6. More importantly, it pulls from her memories to create a prison for her. While examining the items found within this room, many look eerily familiar. Again, we will revisit this concept at the end of this video. Mono eventually manages to cure 6 by destroying the music box, an item, as stated before, which binds her to this monstrous form. This leads to the signal tower revealing its true form, a living mass of flesh made up from the bodies of those it consumes. While escaping, Mono drops behind 6 and she grabs his hand to prevent him falling, but decides in a cruel turn of events to let her friend fall. Most likely because she senses the darkness calling him from within, and has witnessed Mono's dangerous powers, which she feels threatened by.
Wait,
of
what?
course, 6 Mono's dangerous powers, with darkness calling him from within, and has witnessed Mono's dangerous powers, which she feels threatened by. Of course, 6 unwittingly dooms the world by doing this. Mono is imprisoned by the signal tower and his powers used to distort and warp the world throughout space and time.
Wait,
distort and warp the
This gives birth to a time paradox where the nightmarish world is created and a cycle begins in order to salvage it.
world throughout space and time. This creates a time paradox where Mono has always been Thin Man and so calls out to his past self so he may be freed from this prison within the tower and finally have a chance to break the cycle, saving the world and its inhabitants from this terrible fate. 6 leaves the signal tower, but part of her now belongs to it. As seen with the glitching remains of the ghost children we find throughout Little Nightmares 2, her connection to Mono and the tower separates 6's soul from her body. Now incomplete, the loss of 6's soul leaves a great empty void, a void which must be satisfied. This is the birth of 6's hunger, a hunger we contend with throughout the very first Little Nightmares game, confirming Little Nightmares 2 is indeed the second game in the timeline and a prequel to the events of the original. We also note that 6's spirit energy looks down at a poster of the Maw, suggesting the TV6 exits the tower through is either aboard the Maw or she is given the idea to head there in order to gain access to the power she needs to be cured, powers she eventually procures from Sorceress the Lady. With this information in hand, the first game is pretty self-explanatory. It is the third in the timeline, continuing Six's story as her hunger begins to destroy her from within. The ending of Little Nightmares 2 also sheds light on a possible explanation for the shadowy figure of Six that watches over her each time she feasts.
I don't think I noticed
that.
that.
Half of her lost after escaping the signal tower. This hunger requires soul energy to properly quench its thirst, replacing elements of the soul Six herself has lost. This explains why, in a cruel twist of fate, Six eats the gnome child and not the sausage it offers up to her. It also explains why, upon killing the lady and consuming her dark magic, Six then uses said power to drain the life force from everyone else aboard the Moor. She has become a monster herself, a monster with a never-ending hunger, sucking the life from anything that stands in her way. So let's tie up some loose ends and wrap up this video. Returning to Six's chalk drawings in the hunter's house, and things suddenly click. Starting at the signal tower and working backwards reveals our timeline. It shows past and future, but not yet present. To explain, look to the far right, and we see events as they happen before Little Nightmares 2, the death of the girl in the yellow raincoat as she plunged to a watery grave. Then we see tally marks representing a passage of time. These lead to an empty gap. But why is this empty? Well, because it marks the current period of time for which the outcome is not yet determined. But perhaps this could be filled in with mono, like so. Moving on, we see another passing of time and then a drawing of the runaway boy and his gnome. This was the character found in the DLC Secrets of the Moor, which ran in sync with the events of Six's adventure in the original game. Another character who died by Six's hand as seen earlier in the video. Finally, another shorter passage of time and the death of the lady. This brings us bang up to date with the story of Little Nightmares as we know it, and everything ties in to that image at the back of this room, the signal tower itself. What's interesting about the placement of the signal tower drawing is how it's sketched upon a different wall surface. To me, this makes sense as the signal tower exists on a separate plane of existence within time and space, a dimension where time is fluid and past, present and future are as one. This explains why we see items from Six's past and future within this same room. Take for example her suitcase from the Moor. It doesn't exist in her memories as of the story of Little Nightmares 2, but can still appear in her prison within the tower due to its ability to draw from events still to occur. Look to these portraits for example, and again we see a timeline represented right to left. At the far right, we see Six as a child, cowering in her raincoat. Then, in the centre, an image representing the lady, her face scratched away to represent her demise. On the left, we see a horrifying face, but one that seems familiar in a way. It looks similar to that of a granny found in the depths of a moor. I had theorised previously that this granny is what would eventually become of the lady as her powers ravaged her body over time. The pretender from Very Little Nightmares, the next in line to take the lady's place after she herself took the place of the previous granny. Again, it's all one big cycle. It seems as Six consumed the lady's power, she may be in for a similar fate, to become disfigured and monstrous over time. This portrait showing Six in the future.
Maybe.
Perhaps if Little Nightmares 3 does happen, we will witness this horrifying transformation. Unless Mono finds a way to escape his Thin Man fate and break the time paradox that is.
Nah.
One question remains. How is Six able to draw from memories
Now hold
of her
on,
future?
wait a damn minute, wait a damn minute. Wait a damn minute. Because here's the thing. This guy makes a lot of good points. But here's the thing. Judging from what he said, Six intentionally dropped Mono. She dropped Mono because she felt some like darkness coming from Mono. So why would he help her if the intention was to drop her? You know what or drop him, you know what I mean? Why would he help her? If anything, I can see vengeance. In Little Nightmares 3, I could definitely see vengeance coming back, right? unless Mono understood and was like, oh, you sense darkness from me? You tried to get rid of me? Okay, cool. Or, unless he comes back as the Thin Man. But the thing is, that whole self-battle with Mono and the Thin Man, it was like, that's what confuses me the most, right? Because if Mono is the Thin Man, then who was he fighting? You know what I mean? Like, was he fighting himself? Or did this create a whole new timeline where Mono becomes the Thin Man and the Thin Man was something else? Like, we still... I hope he answers this.
Memories she shouldn't yet have access to. Well, if we think about the names Six and Mono and what they represent in literal terms, we can jump to some logical conclusions. Mono means one, only, or single. This makes sense as the origin of this terrifying world falls to Mono and his fate as Thin Man within the Signal Tower. There is only one Mono, and he is the ground zero event which triggers everything before and after. While running toward the door Thin Man is trapped behind, if we pay close attention we can see the number 6. This suggests that this door is number 6, and therefore the 6th cycle within this paradox. If so, then 6 has her name due to being the catalyst for this particular cycle. She triggers the events that doom this world each time when handing over Mono to the Signal Tower's control. If this theory is correct, then 6 is simply the 6th of her kind, with 5 prior versions existing in different failed timelines. So, with this concept in mind, we can conclude 6 may retain faint memories of her 5 prior incarnations. Of course, this is a stretch, but this is the only way the rest of this theory makes sense, and why else feature the number 6 on the door here, and use such numerical terms for both protagonists. Either way, that head-scratching conundrum brings us to the end of this video looking at the timeline of the Little Nightmares universe. I hope you did enjoy it, and if you did, remember to leave a like or horror.
So, for the most part, so they're not siblings. That's something that debunks that, because for me, I thought they were siblings at first. I think it's interesting, dude. I really do think it's interesting, because I really thought that they were siblings. That was debunked. I didn't know that Mono would end up being the Thin Man. That kind of surprised me. As for 6, dude, I didn't know bro, like, there's so much going on with this game. Like, there's questions I still have, right? Like, who are the creatures, or not the creatures, but like, who are the motherfuckers in the game, right? Who are, like, the teacher, right? Does she bring in any significance? Like, I saw this explanation on the first game, about the first game, and they were telling me who the creatures in the game were, right? So, the chef, the fat chef, he didn't really have symbolism to the story, but they explained what he was, right? He's not just a normal human being. Or like the dude with the short legs and the long arms, right? Like, they were talking about how these were creatures of the maw, right? And then, like, the fat asses in the first game, right? They were explaining that, oh, these guys were basically fattened up so the lady, the old lady, can, like, you know, get her power up, you know, so she doesn't have to starve. And that explains 6, because at the end you see 6, what's it called? Once she absorbs the power, she absorbs, like, the fat people, right? It basically stops her from being starving. So, that's what I wanted to, like, get an understanding of for the most part. But I guess, like, I guess that's just something you need more research on. Or I need more research on. It was very obvious from the start, because You got a companion. You gave 6 a companion. You played as a main character that was helping 6, right? So I thought, considering how close Mono was to 6, I thought that Mono would die, and that's why we got 6's story in the first game. But no, apparently it's a little bit darker. It's a little bit darker than that. So yeah. Now, I'm going to conclude this stream. I'm going to end it here. As I said, thank you guys for tuning in with me, the Little Nightmares series.